Hello, welcome back to our world today. I will be picking up from where I last left off. Now, we have been talking about gender differences and we've been looking at how the genders differ in terms of how they handle stress, their different communication styles, what motivates the different genders, their different intimacy cycles, and equally how the different genders keep different scores in marriages. Now, stress is bad for the individual. Stress will cause stress is bad on a physiological and a biological level. Stress will reduce your immune system. It will cause your immune system to malfunction. It can equally cause memory loss, it can cause high blood pressure, it can cause fatigue and headaches, and it can equally affect your mood in the sense that it can cause you to have depression, anxiety, memory loss, anger, mood swings. It can cause you to have low motivation for life, low self-esteem, and just a sense of not of mental health challenges. It can equally affect our behaviors in the sense that it can show up in the form of addictions to porn, uh, addictions to substances, drug abuse. It can equally show up in poor eating habits, causing you to become obese or causing you to be anorexic. It can equally show up in our social interactions. It can cause you to have social avoidance or experience social awkwardness where you're unable to socialize properly because of stress. Now stress is bad individual on an individual level, and stress is bad for marriages. And I want to say that I believe that most marriages in first world countries undergo stress or have stress triggers more than marriages in third world countries. And this is because I believe in third world countries, they have a better work life balance, better community spirit or community groups that help nourish these marriage relationships. They have better social groups and they have better family structures, and these help to equip a marriage with what it needs to thrive. And that's why we see in the divorcestats.com that marriages in the West are failing faster. And although I am I am speaking on topics that affect marriages universally, it would be remiss for me not to consider the fact that the marriages that are the most vulnerable are the black marriage black units. So marriages between two black people. These are the marriages that are the most vulnerable and are more likely at the percentage of 38.9% to dissolve. And that's alarming. That's an alarming stats there. And I am looking at, and although like I said the problems are universal, I believe there's a lot to be looked at in terms of the black family if we are to preserve black families in Western cultures. Now, stress is is bad for men and bad for women, but women handle stress poorer than men, and that reflects itself as well in the divorce stats, in the sense that women are more likely to seek a divorce than men, with women being the ones to file for divorces than their male counterparts. So women handle stress poorly. Now, it's important to understand how the different genders handle stress so that we can support them in their process of healing from stress. When men are stressed, they tend to cave, what Dr. John Gray calls the cave experience. They tend to withdraw, or they turn to retreat into solitude to solve problems at work, at family levels, or even in at individual levels. They tend to seek solitude. In other words, men seek autonomy and individuality to solve problems, whereas women seek connection and togetherness to solve problems. Now, women in third world countries, I believe, are more prone to stress than women in first world countries because they have a poor support system when it comes to help at home. Most women manage jobs in the household, raising kids, managing the running the household, as well as jobs in the workforce where they go out to earn a living, because in the Western culture, there is a need for dual income to live comfortably or to a certain satisfactory level. There is a need for two income earners to bring income into the family unit. Therefore, women are going out to work. And when a woman earns or seeks or she exchanges her services for money, she is prone to fall on her male side. She is working with her male side, which is her testosterone side, which is the male side of the woman. And like we've said previously, every time there's an imbalance in estrogen in a woman, she is more prone to be stressed. So women who go out to work will face stress. Now, women who work in male dominated roles, or roles where they need, in roles of leadership, where they oversee, or they have or they have a large amount of groups that they oversee, or people that work under them, she moves on to a higher ladder of stress, because now she's pulling in more testosterone. She's moving far away from her estrogen side, or from her side of power, and therefore she will be more stressed, and therefore she needs to pull back to her female side, or to her estrogen side, or to her side of power, to bring back a balance in stress in her body. And it's important for women to know that they face a higher challenge in the workplace to be stressed as compared to men, because being in the workplace is actually a testosterone booster for men, and it is equally as well a testosterone booster for women. But women do not need testosterone at high levels compared to men, and therefore she will experience a higher percentage of stress. So it's important for us to know how to manage stress in so that we will have healthier relationships. And it's important to know how to support our partners in the marriage unit when we realize that they are undergoing stress. Now, stress, at when we have a short boost of stress, short-term stress can be productive, in the sense that it will cause you to have sharpness and alertness, and an ability to focus and to problem solve at a faster rate due to that rush of adrenaline. But it is long-term stress that is the problem, because you see, when we are exposed to stress for a longer period of time, what it is that cortisol and adrenaline is being released to the body, is being released to the prefrontal cortex. And when cortisol is released in high percentages continually to the brain, it causes blood to shut down. Blood flow to the prefrontal cortex is shut down. And the prefrontal cortex is the place of reasoning, is the place of logic, is the place where we go to solve problems. Now, if a woman experiences a shutdown in this area of her brain, and you compound that with emotional instability that women are prone to, you can therefore see that women can become irrational, and and throw all logic out to the window when they are under stress. And therefore it's important for women to know how to balance stress and how to come back to her estrogen side. Now, when men are stressed, they pull away. And it's funny, because science says that stress leaks through the skin, and stress is contagious. So if you come into contact with somebody who is stressed, stress releases a chemical reaction that goes into the atmosphere and seeps through the skin, that you can pick up and equally become stressed. So being around a stressed person can equally, unbeknownst to you, cause your body to go into stress. And I found that very, very interesting, that men tend to retreat to deal with stress. And maybe this is the protector, provider instinct in men that causes men to pull away when they are stressed. Now, when women are stressed, they need to find ways to bring down their stress levels. They need to find ways. They need to find ways to bring down their stress levels. Now, oxytocin is what we call the love hormone or the cuddle hormone, and this is a great way. If stimulating oxytocin will bring down your stress. Now, oxytocin is produced through touch, so cuddling, hugging. That could be your children. That could be any. It could be a friend. It could be your spouse. Hugging, touch will reduce stress through the release of oxytocin. Um, Anything that makes you feel good will reduce stress. The endorphins actually will reduce stress because endorphins is your pleasure hormone, and pleasure reduces stress. It takes away, it numbs pain. Is equally the hormone that controls pain or causes pain relief, and that's the endorphins. And you can stimulate endorphins through anything that's pleasurable: listening to music, dancing, taking a class, um, laughing, watching a movie, eating something you enjoy, going out for a meal. These are pleasurable things that will reduce stress. You can equally call upon serotonin to reduce stress. Now, serotonin is the feel good hormone. It's your feel good hormone, and this is released. You get a boost of serotonin, funny enough, under sunlight. Now, sunlight will boost serotonin. And it's funny because during the winter, we have shorter days and longer nights, and it's usually, most people call it the depressing season. And now we kind of know why, because serotonin is there's a reduction in the production of serotonin during the winter periods, or the shorter days, the longer nights, the longer periods of darkness. Serotonin equally is released when we exercise. Exercise will relieve stress. Estrogen, increasing your estrogen levels will reduce stress rather. And estrogen is produced when you do anything that you like to do, that you do not have to do, will produce estrogen. So anything like self-care will produce estrogen. Putting on makeup, getting your nails done, getting a pedicure, getting a manicure, getting your hair done, all these self-care things will begin to boost your sense of well-being. It will boost your estrogen levels. It will reduce your stress levels. um, going out taking a vacation, adventure, a staycation, a holiday, a retreat, joining a group such as a gym group, a reading book group, a book club, a cooking club, anything that causes a community spirit and brings you together with other people, with other with other people, will actually help a woman reduce her stress levels. So it's important that men begin to push women into these areas where they can increase their estrogen, where they can increase their sense of well-being, where they can experience that sense of happiness, that sense where they can feel that they have power over stress. And a little nugget there: estrogen levels are highest in a woman when she is in physical intimacy with her husband, whether be that making love with her husband or cuddling up with her husband. Just the sense of physical intimacy in itself increases oxytocin. And they say sex actually increases the highest percentage of estrogen in a woman, and that, I'm sure, is going to make a lot of men happy actually right now. But yes, estrogen levels, if we can increase estrogen levels, we can actually prolong menopause in women actually. Menopause comes as a result of reduction of estrogen, and women who undergo or who are going through menopause actually will experience higher levels of stress and will need to decompress or de-stress themselves. Now, we've spoken a lot about stress. Let's move on to different communication styles. Now, different genders communicate in different ways. Men tend to, when men are stressed, men tend to be quiet. They tend to be calm. They tend to say less when they're going through challenges. Whereas women tend to be hyperbolic in their communication, they tend to be exaggerative. And this can annoy some men sometimes when a woman says, for example, we never go out to eat, or we never go on holidays. And maybe you went for a holiday 4 weeks ago or 4 months ago, and women use hyperbolic statements, exaggerative statements when they are talking, because when women talk, women are perceived or are known to talk more than men, because women rationalize or receive logic, or they come in tune with their thoughts and their emotions through speech. So when a woman is talking, she's actually processing thoughts in her brain. Now, communication is 7% verbal and 93% nonverbal. So in that words, 38% of communication is tone, 55% of communication is your body language and your facial expression, and 7% of communication is actually what you're saying. So really and truly, it is our communication styles, or our ability to communicate, comes more rather from not what we say, but actually how we say these things. And it's important to note this, because it's important to be mindful about this, especially when it comes to conveying discontentment, or when it comes to conveying a disagreement, that it's not what you're saying, but actually how you are saying it that matters. Now, different styles of communication. Women communicate differently from men, in the sense that when a woman needs help or she needs something done, she tends to put on an attitude, because she perceives that her husband needs to know what she wants even without her saying it. Now, this is a misconception that women have, that because women tend to, through instinctively know what another woman needs if they are around that woman. It's an instinct that women have that men do not have. And so when a woman is in a marriage relationship, she expects that if her husband loves her, he will be in tune instinctively with her needs. But that is where the gap exists. Men are not instinctive beings. Men need to be told what to do. Women, and even in that, men resist help helping, and women resist asking. And that is a gap that exists between the genders. It's important for women to understand that she needs to make her requests known, her needs known, the things that she wants. She needs to make this known to a man. Women need to understand how to ask for help. When it comes to asking for help, women need to gauge the time. Men need to be approached at the right time. If they are not approached at the right time, they will lose. They will not have the same focus. They will not have the same attention as you automatically do, because you're a woman and you're able to multitask. Therefore, timing is important when you are approaching a man with a request, because you need to be sure that he's available to answer to your request, in the sense that if you approach a man when he's unwinding, or he's watching a football game, or he's just come through the door from work and he's tired, he is probably not going to be available or validate your need as much as if you asked him at the right time. Your tone of voice matters. You cannot use a condescending tone. You cannot use a demanding tone. You cannot be sarcastic. You cannot be antagonistic when you are making your request. Your attitude when you are making requests matters equally. Be brief and be direct in your request. You do not need to write a whole textbook to explain why you need what you need to be done. Be direct and be brief in asking for your requests. Equally, Dr. John Gray says it is a good thing to use would and will rather than could and can. And I know this point sounds very petite, or what you'd call it sounds very insignificant. Why should you use will instead of can, or would instead of could? And it's simply because of how the brain receives language. Now, if you were to ask, when a man sought to marry you and he used the word, can you marry me? It definitely has a different connotation to saying, will you marry me? And you can see now that will you marry me and can you marry me carries different weights. And it's the same thing when you are seeking a request or asking for something to be done. It is better to use will you than can you. And it's just um it's just how the brain receives the information is different. A can request says you could and you could not, depending on your predisposition, your time, if you have the time or the energy. It's a different type of request. Whereas will actually puts the request into perspective. Men resist helping in the sense that men have this notion in their minds that if it's not broken, don't fix it. And it's not that men do not want to help, it is that it is how the brain of a man works. Now, a man will help if he knows he's successful in helping you. And what motivates a man to help is his ability to succeed. So if he helps you to do something and you say it wasn't well done and you shun it down, or you put a thumb down to what he did, to the effort. In other words, you downplay the effort. The likelihood for a man to come again to help you in that same disposition is very unlikely, because men like to succeed. They like to be successful. They like to feel that they've achieved something when they've done something, and they like to receive appreciation and gratitude for making the effort. So now, if a man resists your requests, it's important be be persistent in asking. Now, persistent asking is not nagging. Persistent asking is simply being firm with the need that you have. And in persistent asking, it is not about putting a man down, or saying why he needs to do this, or saying, oh, I do everything in this house, why can't you just do this one little thing? It is not about nagging. It's not about or guilt tripping. It's not about forcing. It's simply about putting your request down in the most respectful of ways and asking for his help. And when you ask, be silent. Do not go on a rant about why he needs to help and how he needs to help and why can't he help and you do this all the time. It's about putting your request. And this is, I find this to be a very feminine thing, being able to have a need and to be able to put your need forward in a way that is calm and is collected, and it's you and confident, in the sense that you ask for the help, you stay silent, and you allow him to help you. And be it whether he grumbles through it or moans through it or grunts through it, let him have his grunts as long as he helps. And when he does help, show appreciation for that help. Be thankful, be grateful for the help, and you will heal his resistance. And for men, their resistance to help actually needs to be healed. They need to be coaxed, like children. They need to be coaxed into doing things, and they need to feel that they're competent and they're able and they're successful in helping you, because that gives a man a testosterone boost. And equally, it's also equally important to know that a healthy relationship is one where both partners can't they have the freedom to express their need for their needs and their wants, and they equally have the freedom to say no. So sometimes you will say no, sometimes he will say no, and sometimes it's got to be okay. It's got to be okay, because everyone needs that freedom and ability to say no, and that constitutes a healthy a healthy relationship. So these are the gaps that exist. Men resist helping, women resist asking, because they believe that a man should already know what to do and just do it if he actually loves the woman. Women equally need their emotions validated, and men turn to actually invalidate women's emotions. Now, what do I mean? When a woman is bothered, or when she is stressed, or she's trying to process information through talking, she might start saying things that are negative, not because she is blaming her husband or blaming the man for these negative emotions, but she's simply venting out her feelings. Remember, women are beings that are more prone to feelings. They're more prone to their emotions. They have a larger limbic system, which means they are able to sense a variety or a large range of emotions at the same time. So when a woman begins to vent or begin to express her negative emotions, a man can tend to see this as blaming or as complaining, whereas she might just be wanting to talk and vent, and in so doing she is processing her this information, and she's actually rationalizing and thinking as she talks out loud. So men need to learn to validate a woman's emotions and just tell the woman it's okay to feel this way, and I understand how you feel, instead of saying you shouldn't feel this way, you can't feel this way, you're not allowed to feel this way because of this and because of that. Women are feeling beings, and they need to be able to access those feelings. It is part of who they are, and this is where the gender gaps tend to exist that need to be bridged. Now, we women equally have a way of talking to men when they have problems. And I used to do this a lot without actually knowing that I was doing something wrong. Women tend to give unsolicited advice to men. Now, unsolicited advice in the sense that when a man is going through a problem or there is a challenge, the family is facing a challenge, a woman sometimes can step up and start giving advice in a way that makes a man feel like he's incapable of solving a problem. It makes him feel incompetent and unsuccessful. And it's important for women to know that men need to feel successful at what they do, at managing their homes and managing their families and managing their lives. It is an integral part of men to be able to solve problems on their own. And that's the why men withdraw or they go into their caves to solve problems, because they at that time they seek autonomy, they seek independence, they seek freedom. And this is really what is at the core of a man's being able to solve problems. And so when you offer a man advice in a condescending manner or in a judgmental manner, you are actually doing him a disservice, even if your logic is right, even if your solution is right, even if your way is the way out. It is important to understand how to offer advice, and sometimes actually don't even offer the advice at all. Sometimes it is necessary for men to go through the pit. It's necessary for them to fall and pick themselves up and realize by themselves the mistake and corrected by themselves. Because you see, testosterone is triggered through problem solving. And when you overcompensate, and when you overly give advice, and when you try to solve problems, and when you consistently try to bring a man out of challenges, you actually do him a disservice, because what you are stripping from him is his ability to solve problems, his ability to rely on his testosterone to bring him out of challenges. And by default, you're actually rendering him weak. It's important that men receive these challenges to empower themselves and to boost up testosterone. Men need to solve problems. They need to use their own rationale and their own logic to dig themselves out of trouble. Men feel good when they're able to solve problems. Autonomy and independence are necessary for a man's emotional and mental well-being. It's important for his testosterone actually to be able to solve problems. It is a testosterone booster. It actually boosts a man when he does this problem. So it's important for women to understand how to give advice, and sometimes not to give advice at all, and actually to only give advice, if I may say so, when asked for the advice, when consulted for the advice. If not, women, stay in your lane and stay in your power. Your power is to be calm, is to maintain calm, to trust, to show trust, to show acceptance. That is the place of a powerful woman. Trust your husband to bring you out, to bring the family out of this problem. Trust and show acceptance for who he is, because every time you try to counteract his decisions, it's a way of showing unacceptance, and it's also translated as a lack of love. Actually, men translate that as a lack of love. When you do not show trust and you do not show acceptance, it is translated as a lack of love. So equally, let's talk about how we are, our approach to arguments. Now the time is running, but we have to finish this. How do men and women approach arguments? We fight, we flight, we fake, or we fold. Now when I talk about fight, men and women fight in the sense that we argue. Now arguments are not healthy for relationships. It's important that we show our discord, or our disagreement, in respectful ways that can be received and understood by the opposite gender. Because when we are close to someone, we receive negative, or we receive disapproval or negative emotions. We do not take them as well as we would take from somebody who is from on the outside. And therefore, it's important to show our disapproval in a positive way. We can still validate, we can still agree to disagree in a loving manner, in the sense that look for the positives, look for the motives, look for the reasons, the good reasons, the good intentions behind actions and behind behaviors. Always look for the positive and bring them out in a way that does not offend. In other words, stop the blame culture. Stop the blame culture. And it's important that when we argue, that we reduce the use of you should have, you could have, you would have, and present these arguments in a new light of I feel this way, I would have liked this, I think. And if we take the blame culture and the attack culture out of arguments, we will have healthier disagreements. It's important to know that we will disagree. It's important to know that we are all individuals, and we will have different ways of thinking and rationalizing things and approaching things. But we can agree to disagree in a respectful way where there is no contention, where there is no aminosity. It is the how. It is the how we speak, not the what we say, that counts. So there's the fight, we equally flight. The flight mode is when we avoid, when we simply do not address the situation at all. We disappear, or we just stay clear away from him, or we stay clear away from her. And it is not the best approach. A cold war is as lethal as a world war. So it's important to face these challenges in a positive light. Some people fake. In other words, they fake in the sense that they pretend that everything is okay. They pretend to agree. They pretend to be on board. They pretend to accept. They fake it. And this is part of suppression, suppressing your emotions. And suppressing emotions is really, really bad for us, because it takes away our individuality. It kills our right of freedom to feel, to our right of freedom to express. So therefore it's important to confront disagreements, confront the arguments, but in a way, again, like I said, is respectful of one and each other's feelings. Now, some people fold when they have problems, folding in the sense that they just accept everything. They accept the blame. They say, yes, I did this. Yes, it's my fault. And they never bring up their true emotions and their true feelings. Again, this is a form of repression. And this is really bad for your mental health, it's bad for your physical health, it's bad for your general well being, and it will affect you negatively on the long run. So it's important to be able to air out these emotions. And Dr. John Gray, the author from Women Are From Mars and Men Are From Women Are From Venus and Men Are From Mars, as well as Dr. Gary Smalley, or who the author of For Better or For Best, all propose a letter writing technique as a means of conveying negative emotions, in the sense that for people who find it hard to express negative emotions, they both suggest putting these things in a letter. Dr. Gary Smalley says write a letter every time you're unsatisfied, or you feel a negative emotion, or you feel a problem that needs to be addressed in your marriage. Write it down on a paper, put it in a box. Each of you, put it in a box, and at the end of the week, each person read the notes of the other person, what they have said concerning their emotions and their feelings, and read these things out together and address the situation together. Now, I think this is a great plan in the sense that, remember that communication is 7% verbal and 93% nonverbal. And so when we remove the 93% out of the communication bracket and we leave just the 7%, it is actually better to receive a note, because there will be no negative connotations attached to the onto what you were saying, in the sense that it will not come out as a confrontation, as a blame, as an attack. It will simply come out as an expression of thought, and as an expression of feelings. Equally, Dr. John Gray suggests a love letter technique, and in his love letter technique, it's the same principle of writing your emotions down, but he has a 5-step process where he encourages people to write about their emotions first by identifying what they're angry about, identify what makes them sad, talking about what they fear, talking about what they are sorry about or what they regret. And lastly, the fifth point is talking about their love, or expressing their love for their partner. So when you end with on a note of love, you open a table for reconciliation, and you open a platform for solving the problem. And I think this is an excellent technique, because It allows you to face your emotions, to understand the rawness of what you were feeling. And in that, in its sense, is a form of therapy, and it's a form of healing. And sometimes you will not have to give the letter to the spouse, because by just coming face to face with your emotion will begin a healing process. And it also allows you to come into centeredness, or to focus your thoughts, or to rationalize your thoughts in a way that it does not spiral out of control. And I think this is so much important. This is so important for women, because women's thoughts, our thoughts, tend to spiral out of control, and sometimes completely out of context of the problem. And the problem seems, the molehill becomes a mountain. And by writing these emotions down, you're able to actually look at them in the face, and you're able to actually see your role in the problem, and probably also judge their intentions, be it positive or negative, in creating this problem. So the love letter technique is actually a really good technique in conveying negative emotions. And there comes the end to our topic of communication. Now I want to talk about our different intimacy cycles, how men and women differ in their intimacy cycles. Now, men tend to withdraw after a long time of proximity with a woman. Men tend to pull away, and this pulling away is not something that's intentional. It's not even something that they can control. It's something that is just inborn and very natural in a man, for because, like I said again, men seek autonomy, they seek independence. That is a vital need for a man, to be autonomous and still be connected, to be independent and yet still be together. These are polarities that exist in a man. So after a close time of proximity with a woman, men tend to pull away. It's like it this is what I would say balances a man's intimacy cycle. In the same way, a woman's menstrual cycle balances her fertility, a man's intimacy cycle balances his ability to be emotionally available to a woman. Men need to pull away, and women use should not punish a man for pulling away and coming back, and they should not misconstrue it as a lack of love or a lack of attention, but simply a lack but simply a necessity for manhood to thrive. Equally, these are the gaps that differ, because women seek intimacy and men sometimes seek autonomy. And so if a man needs to pull away, a suggestion simply is tell your wife that you just need some time for yourself. And a woman can fill in that time with cooking and learning a craft, or reading a book, or doing a course, or going out for a self-pampering trip, self-care trip, taking herself to the spa, getting her hair done, getting her nails done. There's catching up with a friend, with family. There's so many things that a woman can fill in that time with. Fill in that time frame that a man has pulled away or needs to pull away to regain autonomy and independence. Now, equally, we want to talk about keeping different score sheets. Now, men and women keep different score sheets in relationships. Now, when women tend to give in a relationship, she tends to give to the point of burnout. Now, it's important to know that as women get older, they tend to give less and expect more. Whereas when men get older, they seem to mature into a level of service and a level of thinking of others before they think about themselves. So men mature into service and giving, whereas women actually mature into being actually laid back and expecting more. But especially in the early days of marriage, women tend to give more. It's in the nature of a woman to give more, especially if she is taking care of home and she is working at the same time. So a woman can keep different score sheets. She can, in her mind, she mentally processes the things and the activities that she has done, and she begins to count them one by one, every activity she has done for the day. And then when she compares this to a man's activity, to what he has done in the day, it can begin to bring a sense of frustration and a sense of contempt in the sense that she is saying she has brought more onto the table as compared to the man. Now, it's important to note that when men go, if a man, for example, is the main income winner or breadwinner in a family, he sees his role as the biggest role, and in terms of what he brings to the table, he perceives he has brought the biggest share in the sense that he is paying the bills. Whereas a woman, even if she is not working and she's a stay-at-home mom, still considers her role to be superior in the sense that she has probably gone through a list of 20 things that she has done for her family, for her husband, for her children for the day. And this is how women keep different score sheets. Men score women differently, women score men differently in terms of what they bring into the family unit, in terms of their resources and their time and their energy. Women score men differently than men score, and men score women differently as well. And this is quite funny, but this is quite real, especially for the women. And I know that my sisters out there will agree with me, because I agree with myself on this one. Women definitely keep a score sheet, and she's counting everything she's doing as opposed to what the man has done. And she's saying, I've done 40 things today for the family, and you've just gone out to work, and that's not the same. And that's just the way women work. So it's important to bring balance into this, in the sense that when men go out to work, it's important to balance equally working at home, providing help for your wife in the sense of taking care of the kids, maybe cleaning the dishes, cleaning the floor, cleaning the bathroom, just those domestic help, those little things you do for a woman go a long way into her feeling cherished, loved, cared, and provided for. And that's bringing me to my last topic: what motivates the sexes, how the sexes are motivated. Now, women are motivated when they are, let me start with men. Men are motivated when they are needed. Women are motivated when they are provided for, when they can depend. Let me use that word, depend. When they can depend. When a woman is able to depend on a man, it draws out her estrogen, it draws out her femininity, it draws out her need for the strength, the protection, and the provision that a man brings into her life. Now, when we look at medieval days and the Victorian days and the Elizabethan era, we realize that men got their sense of manhood from being able to provide for a woman. That's where they got their sense of value. So in these eras, or in these times, a woman would be betrothed to a man. In fact, marriages were arranged, and a man's likelihood to get married would depend on his ability to provide, to protect, and to care for his family. And therefore, a value system, or the man's value, comes from his ability to be needed. Being needed is really important for a man. Being successful in the area of the need is even more important. Astronomically even more important. The ability to be successful and to be competent in that need. Women need to depend, and it's a funny thing, because that is the core of a woman, the ability to depend. And if we go back to Genesis 1, and I love going back to Genesis, I love going back to the beginning, because I believe water is purest at its source. And the purest source of water seems to come from above. It seems to come from the heavens. And that's where water is purest, when it comes down in the form of rain. So it's important to go back to the beginning and go back to the source when it comes to really understanding who we are, because we seem to have a diminished understanding of what it means to be a man and what it means to be a woman. And we fail to understand that there is glory in being a man, and there is glory in being a woman, and there is glory in marriage. And when God created marriage, he said marriage was good. But society has seemed to turn it upside down and played the sexes against each other. And what we're living today is a total catastrophe and a total mess when it comes to the genders and who the genders are, intricately who they are. Women need to depend. When Eve was created, she was created out of the bone of Adam. She was created out of a structure that already existed. She was created out of material that already existed in Adam, which was the skeleton of Adam. She was taken from his rib. She depended on Adam being whole to be able to exist. She depended on Adam's anatomy to exist. A woman needs to it is at the intricate frame of a woman to need to depend. And it's amazing that society is stripping women these days of that need, and we are having boss women and strong women, and nothing wrong with being a boss, nothing wrong with being strong. But the problem is when you deny who you are, when you deny what is the fabrics of your being, your soul, and the essence of who you are as a woman, you set yourself for jeopardy. You set yourself for mental health, for mental unrest, and just you set yourself for psychological problems, physical problems, because when you tend to want to depend on yourself, and nothing wrong with depending. Again, please get me wrong. There is nothing wrong with a woman depending on herself. But there's everything wrong when a woman is married to a man and she cannot depend on him. There is it's collateral damage. It's collateral damage because women need that to be able to feel her femininity, to be able to function at her optimal levels, to be able to have an increase in estrogen. An estrogen surge actually comes out when a woman is able to depend on a man. So when a woman is able to depend on a man, and it doesn't equally have to just be financially, she can depend on a man for emotional stability. Yes, she can equally depend on a man for financial stability. She can depend on a man to take care of her children. She can depend on a man to show up every day in her home, to be able to help her cater for her home, to help her cater for her heart, to help her cater for her spiritual well-being, the spiritual well-being of her children. When a man shows up and is reliable and dependable, this is the greatest gift he could ever give to a woman. This is what motivates the genders, and the again the gap that exists in this is that in the cause of creating that dependable space for a woman, men tend to focus on their objectives, whether be it work or be it the thing that causes them to be whole. So in women need to depend on him for something, and he equally needs to depend on something else to fulfill him, and that's where the chase exists, and that's where balance needs to come into play, where men need to be able to come into a female's environment or into her space to be able to find out what it is that she needs from him, and what it is that would boost her morale. And equally, in terms of what motivates the gender, women are motivated when they feel cherished, when they feel pursued. Marriage in Victorian ages or in the medieval ages was an economic solution. It was for economic survival. But we have moved past economic survival, and marriage now has become a romantic arrangement where emotions have come into play. So women often need the emotions to be tended to, and in that sense, romance has become a big philosophy in marriage, especially marriage in the Western world. Romance has become a big factor. So women want to be pursued. A woman wants to be continuously dated, continuously courted by her man, even in marriage. She wants to be cherished. And that's why the Bible says a woman's worth is far above rubies. It is precious. A woman is precious. And that's how she sees herself. She sees herself as a precious asset in her family, an asset that needs to be cherished and loved and nurtured through through romantic pursuits and through caring pursuits. She wants to not just be the mother of your children. She doesn't just want to be the maid of the house, the cook and the cleaner, and all these wonderful things that women do to keep their homes in a beautiful arrangement. She equally wants to be a person that is worthy of attention, worthy of love, and worthy of pursuit. So women are motivated when they are pursued and they are cherished. And this brings me to the end of my discourse. How and now we now see that women and men differ in so many levels, but and these gaps exist, but these gaps do not have to be irreconcilable once we understand who we are as men and as women and how we differ and how we deal with life situations. We are now therefore equipped to be able to support each other and give each other the foundation to thrive as men and women, as co-equals in marriage. God bless you. Take care and stay tuned. We will be back to talk about marriage. Adios.